Hey everybody, today we're going to be reviewing Shadow, Vergo, and kraez and their incredible Fortnite Performance Evaluation Finals performance. Now, you might only be familiar with one of these names, kraez, as he used to play with Bucky, but Shadow and Vergo are coming off a 30th at the most recent Duo LAN. They are a very good combination of players. So, when you put these three fighters together, what do you get? One of the best fighting teams on the region. They finished this eval finals with 42 kills. So we're going to look at their 2 third places and their win. First thing to know about this trio is they are a trio that loves to W key. It is in their bloods. They are a triple fragger setup. They love to run it down. So we're going to learn a lot about how to effectively end fights quickly and just in general fight in this meta. So let's jump right in. Let's skip forward a little bit past their early game. There's not really too much to note about it. They land resistance base. And as soon as they're done looting resistance base, they first go down south to see if there's anyone landing Lovely Lane, because that is the first place they're going to try to key. Once they realize there's no one there, they shift their focus. They're now going to try and find a team that lands this split and try and fight them. As they're running over this way, they hear shots over at Flooded Frogs. So, when they arrive at Flooded Frogs, it's time for action. They pull up. First thing to note here is that they're pulling up and they heard the fight just end. So they expect this trio to not be full HP right now. It's a reasonable assumption given that this team is just coming off a fight. They start lurking up. They see Dash scan, which means they know there's one up here somewhere, top right. They then scan themselves, so they know Seek is also on the right. So now they have the info. 2 players are on the right here, 1 is on the left, Veer. So what does the fragger on the trio, Shadow, do? He sprays and then instantly closes the gap, gets above Veer. Because Veer's already in 2 hard boxes, he then shifts his focus, builds up, and tries to get chip damage onto Seek. Now, he's not able to get this chip damage, but he is now able to control the space on these 2 players. Now, all of a sudden, it's gone from Veer being the one ISO'd to Dash being the one ISO'd. And Shadow and kraez both instantly look at Dash. This is really, really good, because if they can keep isolating a player on this trio, it's really easy to end this fight fast. You're probably realizing, if you look at the minimap, there's already a trio here ready to third party this fight. They need to end this fast. So, how do they end this fast? Vergo plays this as well as you can. Vergo isolates Dash and fights him from the outside. Him fighting from the outside means that Seek and Veer can't shoot over and support their teammate even if they wanted to. They physically can't see Vergo, but kraez can see Dash. So kraez sprays over, hits Dash for 100 damage. Vergo sees that Dash has his back turned, double smack straight in, and it's already over for Dash. Now we're in a 2v3. They scan again, and now they're just going to try and close out this fight as fast as they can. This really isn't much to commentate. This is just incredibly clean gameplay, keeping the pressure up, just clean out of Shadow. Try to aggress Veer. kraez has really good awareness here to hear these footsteps, switches focus, calm, hey, we're getting thirded. All of a sudden, Shadow also switches his focus, turns around, jumps up, hits this guy XO for 100, and now all of a sudden, this third party that was about to be a problem, that was about to just come in and clean up this fight, they are now down damage, down 150, so this team now has to slow down, they have to chill. kraez and them recenter their focus again. They focus their down body, play for it. Because they want to prioritize the loot from this fight, they don't want to just take a fight for no reason. They heal up, and now once we're healthy again, we're going to try and punish this team because we know from how they approached this fight before, they confidently know they are a better team than this team third party. So, the second they get a chance, Shadow goes up, closes the gap again, and then we just get a little PC, you know how it is. Moving like PeanutBrainTS out here. Closes the gap. Just absolutely chasing this man down. Now, gloves have been nerfed, but gloves still will break most fresh builds. So even though you can't do this as well as Shadow is doing it now, you can still use the gloves in a very similar way post-nerf. Now, this is a very clean play coming up here. So Shadow keeps applying pressure to this guy. But the second this guy that's trying to get on his back takes damage from his teammate, He instantly shifts focus, pumps him 30, full boxes him, and then puts him in the dirt. And then once again, same thing as before, uses the gloves, breaks this guy down, maxes only, and now we are going to be walking away from this with 4 kills, absolutely cap loot. And to show how efficient they were in this fight, Shadow is able to come out of this fight with a 200 Chug Jug that he didn't have before, as is Vergo. They were so good at quickly ending this fight that no one in this fight was able to use any of their Chug Jugs. That's how quickly and concisely they were able to end it. Now, from here, it's just a lot of cleaning up little solos they find on this side. As you can see, there are 3 different solos now scattered throughout this area. The first one they run into is this Dander guy, who honestly and truthfully puts up a pretty impressive fight here. Better than some of these trios. Like I said, puts up a pretty good fight, but because they played 2 on that wall, there wasn't really an opportunity for that player to get a knock and then get away. Even if he did somehow knock Kraez there, Shadow is still there, 100 HP, he would have been able to get the trade. Then they just keep running around. They scan, and then they find another solo. Same thing, they just are applying pressure to the same wall. Even if he, again, somehow gets damage off on Kraez because Shadow is pressuring the same wall, there's basically no opportunity for this player to win the 1v3. If you're in a position like that where you're up a man, playing double on the same wall is often very good to minimize the chance of you losing. And now we are rolling into the endgame with 7 kills. 6, I'm sorry. Sometimes math is a little hard. But because they've essentially cleared out this entire top left of the map, the amount of space they control is kind of absurd. Like, there is no one on this side of the map. Now, Clix and them do a good idea, which is they push forward from the open space they have towards here to try and stop this trio from going deeper. Because let's say Clix and them stayed over here, Shadow, Vergo, and Kraez could have kept going as deep as they want. So instead, they zoned them out and forced this trio to go back. They end up going back towards their side, end up refarming. So the rest of this game, I'm really going to zero in on Kraez. Kraez is the main IGL on this trio. You are going to see Shadow lead a lot, but I think when it comes to their endgames, you're going to take the most away from Kraez. I think he's got really, really good instincts in endgame and just really, really good overall awareness. So I'm going to fast forward a little bit. They don't really do much here that's really noteworthy or really much can really analyze. They just kind of just stay up on this side. And once again, we pull. Really good pull for them. Because of that, they're not going to have to burn too many mats. They're just going to be able to play their loot. Now, just real quick, we're going to go through their loot. Kraez, as you can see, prioritizes these base boost gloves. 4 minis, Chug Jug, Spire AR. Shadow, you are going to see this every single game. He is going to have these dual pistols. He is crazy with them. He really shows, like, the potential they have. They are an incredible item. And then finally, Vergo, Chug Jug, 3 bigs, and he has a visor. So they aren't able to get triple gloves this game. So they use the gloves to send their teammate forward. I'll play that back for you in case any of you guys haven't seen this tech yet. I feel like most teams should know by now. I feel like it's been pretty commonly used. Like PeanutBrainTS did it like day 1, even Merit tweeted about it. So we just used the gloves, left click, sends our teammates forward. They didn't do it as cleanly as you could have. Teammates got like a little split, but we were able to get together because we went early. If they had done that later, when congestion was worse, let's say they had stayed where they were, tried to look for kills and then done that later, it's very likely one of them would have ended up dying because they would have been split. Instead, they went in early, and that is why they are safe and sound, and now we're going to be able to tarp the rest. You see this a lot from better trios, especially in set lobbies when they have good mats, which is investing heavily into the 7th zone. The 7th zone is the most often zone where teams pre-edit, because this is around the time of the game where teams that are shambles really start to run out of mats, things get congested. Look how many teams are already in this area on the minimap, and so investing a lot of hard materials like metal here is honestly a good investment. especially in a meta like this where people can use these base boost gloves to basically instantaneously break your builds. Even though they've nerfed these base boost gloves, it's still a pretty big risk if you just decide to not invest these mats, as they can still two-shot brick and metal. So they're just going to keep cycling scan. You're going to see pretty consistently amongst the best teams, similar to Clicks, that all of the top teams have scans going into Endgame. I believe that is a must carry. I think that someone on your trio likely has to take the sacrifice and only have one heal, because having this scan in Endgame is so strong. So the ideal loadout would be triple gloves and then a scan on one of you, meaning only one of you only has one heal. It's definitely a downside, as you can very quickly run out of heals, but the upside in the kill potential you have in Endgame, being able to navigate builds when zones pull back, is definitely worth it. You are at a very strong disadvantage if you don't have a scan. So they use their gloves to clear out that team in front of them, giving them more space, and they're going to try and use their gloves again to try and get a drop-down kill on this team. Doesn't really work. You're not going to be able to do that anymore because that was full build metal. You're not going to be able to just shatter full build metal. But again, if it is fresh builds, you would still be able to do something similar, a drop-down attempt to control the space on your side. Now, zone pulls back. Now, this is a really good pull for them, but it's also a really good pull for every other team in this lobby, basically, because they're all still in this north congested side. And now, this is where having a scan is really valuable. On these pullbacks, it's really easy to be awareness check. It's really easy to have shit go crazy. But because they have a scan, it's really easy to avoid this chaotic environment. So, they stay just full front side, work back through their tarp. Try to aggress this solo, don't get it, so they just keep going through. They're just going to keep riding through their old builds. Again, very lucky pullback for them, but a lot of other teams also had this benefit. Like I said before, they're going to keep cycling this scan coin. Remember, the scan coin works on its own individual timer for every player. So if kraez scan, that means Shadow can still insta-scan right after. And now, because they're in a really hectic spot where they've been staggered on this zone, them having scan is super valuable. Now, I'm just going to rewind here real quick. I want to show this, like, little rotate from Shadow's perspective rather than kraez, because I think it really highlights how on the same page they are here. So they look at this trio for a drop down, they're not able to get it. Now they're in, like, a bad spot, right? They're on the congested side, backside, they're not even in. So they gotta be careful. This is a really easy spot for them to die early, 11th. Even if this wasn't a eval finals, this wouldn't be a very good game if they went down here. So they move like a goddamn unit. Instantly, all three focusing the same idea. Occasionally glancing around to check awareness. The second they're not checking awareness, they are always looking at the same spot. They're still trying to aggro the same team on the layer. They have insane focus and poise together. Constantly aggressing the same thing, constantly looking together. It's really clean to watch. This is what a top-tier low to mid-ground team looks like. Second kraez is in front, Shadow takes over to make sure they're front now that they have like a clear lane and pathway in towards the front side. Once again, they are constantly looking together, piecing everything. This is as clinical as like an endgame can be. This is super clean like endgames. This is like picture perfect mid-ground to low ground. 3, 2, 1. It's a big beam on this team on low. Then they're going to try to use their gloves to clear it out, I believe. I'm not going to go height. I messed up, guys. They try and take height, look up, try and go for a chop. They don't really get it, so they're going to refocus and try and recenter and go low. They do get chopped down, Vergo does, and so it's kind of a bad spot for him. All of a sudden, he finds himself in old builds. Can't really do much. Shadow, though, puts on a masterclass here. Let's go back. So not really much Vergo can do there. He gets dropped down by that trio, finds himself in old builds. Only thing really is he could have been pre-holding his floors as he was running there, but that is hindsight. Was brand new season. So, let's go back. Let's watch Shadow as he absolutely puts in the work against Vert's trio. Remember, only way that could have been avoided for Vergo is if he was holding his floors. 100, pieced. 100, pieced. They decide to bomb themselves in, get this full trio wipe. Insane call by kraez there to just go, screw it, we're sending ourselves in. But if it works, it works. This is where things get a little hectic. Because they're on this like a little mid-ground layer, and both height is trying to bomb them, and low ground is trying to bomb them, there's honestly not much they can do here. They don't have the mass to really hold. They're constantly being scanned. They need to like heal HP. The only way they could possibly have won that was if they were a trio and just 50'd it as a trio. Because they're not, there's really not much they can do. The next time a scan goes off, kraez is going to die. So he goes down here. Again, though, super clean mid-ground to low ground there. They were constantly on the same page. It's a lot easier to be on the same page because of the scan item, because you can just be like, look at this trio over here, look at this trio over here. But still, that level of chem is really sorry for a trio that isn't that well established. Like, they haven't been around as a trio for too long. But that's still a super solid game. Super solid mid-game fighting as well. Like I said, they're one of the most mechanically skilled trios in the world. Alright, now we're going to hop into game number 2. This game is going to look very similar to game number, I guess this is game number 3 actually, because I skipped over the first game where they dudded. Game number 3 looks very similar to game number 2 as they aggress early towards this top left team. Let's just skip forward. Now that doesn't look right. Alright, let's skip forward to hopefully where this replay works. Alright. So we roll over. We hear this team just end fighting, so we decide to pull up. Like I said, every single game they are going to fight for their surge. Now, this isn't as technical a fight. Basically, what they do is kraez is able to get height on them. As soon as he gets height, Vergo and them are just going to try to box fight them. The only thing that really is like notable is that he uses the Superman item to break builds. While the Superman like sprite doesn't do much damage to players, it does do a ridiculous amount of structure damage. So it is pretty good for early game fights. Vergo drops on this wall. Let me just rewind real quick. And instas this player. If you have teammates that can get kills this quick, taking a mid-game fight isn't really that bad. So they cycle, scan to each other even in this mid-game fight. It's really easy to box fight if you can't be awareness checked. So even though right there, Vergo definitely does overextend and gets boxed, he's still able to trade his one. Shadow and kraez then instantly collapse because all of their focus is now on Vergo, and they're able to instantly trade out that second one. So even though Vergo definitely did overheat there by getting in that hard, it's still able to put them up a player because their focus is so strongly on Vergo, because Vergo is able to trade one for none there, essentially, at the start. Now, they get this little refresh, and now because their hero rank is higher, they're able to open up a bunch of hero chests on this side of the map. I'll keep saying it, I think getting a high hero rank is very important this season, because it means you have more room for error in your mid-game. If you can optimize your hero rank gameplay so that you are a higher rank, that means you can afford to take more damage in mid-game, because you can find more hero chests you can open. You can afford to take a fight and maybe you need a reboot, but now you have 3 kills. Now you can recover easier because there's more loot you can get. I think optimizing your early game to try and get a high hero rank is very important in this meta. Right there, if they were still only rank C, for instance, they wouldn't have been able to open that chest. That would have hindered their recovery. Now, the rest of this is going to mainly just be your standard just loot phase. Because they got those kills early, they're pretty good on Surge. They're able to thirst all of the bodies. They're at about 900 damage total. As long as they get basically any tags the rest of the game, they should be good. Now, I will say, I do like this, like, mid-game rotate. I think that they use, like, their natural terrain and then use the LOS of the river really well on the zone. I think it gives them, like, a sort of, like, really clear lane where it's, like, they can just fight and they can follow in, and because they go along this, they can break LOS. No Surge base is really going to mess with them, and then they can get in super, super deep on a really good side of zone. For the past 3 minutes now, they've been doing nothing but rotating and have not taken a single bit of damage. That is good gameplay. Instead of going deeper, they decide to go, I guess it is about as deep as you can go with this true center. They decide to try to claim space. You're actually going to see this like a bunch if you like watch like, a lot of kraez. Kraez loves this outlaw shotgun, even before the buff. So we're going to see good awareness here out of kraez. He recognizes that team is trying to key him, instantly comes back. So this team is just trying to fight for this position, really. The second kraez goes back, they just give it up. They're not trying to like actually chase them. A different player might have been more tunnel vision on something else. It allows that trio to get closer. If they're able to get close, even if they're not able to kill kraez, they can still maybe get enough damage where they can then key him off of that. Getting back early is important there. So we're just going to do a quick little loot check. Chug Jug, 3 bigs, gloves. Shadow has 2 bigs, Chug Jug, gloves. Has a Fury R this time, no pistols. And then Vergo has 5 minis, 3 bigs, visor. So this trio seemingly pretty much always wants to have double gloves and a visor. And they're just going to rely on the ability to use the gloves to send Vergo on rotates. That is one of the benefits of these gloves. They are a mobility item that can be used to also help your teammates, but they also double as one of the best, if not the best weapon in the game. That's why you see a lot of trios holding 3 of them, even though only one of them would still probably be a pretty decent mobility item. Now, because they're a center, they are just absolutely geeking on these zones. They pull edge. Because they're edge on like a pretty good elevation, they decide not to go deeper. This is always a question that comes down to positioning, recall, and a lot of other factors. But it's always something to ask yourself whenever you pull on a zone like this. Should I stay edge or should I try and go deeper? The benefits to going deeper is that you can't really have a zone that's bad for you if you get a bad 6th zone. But the harm is you can't really get a godly 6th zone either. Like right here, if they had gone deeper towards like here, they would have had a super easy rotate in here. Like I said before, some of this you're not going to be able to do anymore as they have nerfed the structure damage of these base boost gloves, but still, it is fun to see just absolute carnage and rampage. So they scan before rotate, just trying to get a general sense of where things are. Vergo then picks up a pair of gloves, so now they are triple gloves going into this endgame, while Shadow is now the one that is only holding 1 heal, while he has gloves as well. So just a reminder, this is a pretty bad 6th zone on paper for them. They are going to be pushed onto a pretty mid side of zone here, pretty congested. There's not really much they can do at this point with that zone pull to avoid it. The only thing they could have done was if they had gone more center on 5th, they might have been able to get past this congestion towards like here, but that's still a big maybe. There's no guarantee they could have gone deeper there. That is the idea behind why you could, or why some teams do go center on 5th zone. It's to avoid like a bad 6th zone like this, where they are kind of like on like a pretty mid side of zone. We try and go for that little triple spray. We don't really get much there from that. Yup. Thankfully, these guys keep fighting over here. So because of that, they're still able to spray. Similar to what we watched in Clix' scrims. They do a very similar thing. Let me just rewind that real quick. Make sure I see all the kills. Alright, so it's just Shadow and Kraez. So, even though zone pops and it pulls max again, they still sit there for a second or two and look for damage. If this was last season, for instance, at the start of the Star Wars season where there was no mobility, this would have been a very dumb play. But now that there is mobility in the game, waiting the few seconds to guarantee these kills isn't that bad of a call. Now, in a format like this where it's win only and they don't get any of this loot, can you argue it's not worth it for them? Sure. But I think also building up good habits of getting free kills when you can that don't really cost you too much is still a good thing. Now we're going to watch this little rotate here from Kraez. So I like the concept behind this rotate. He tries to mainly follow old builds rather than just follow the path into the left. He tries to cut middle and then use this hill as sort of like an LOS. I think a lot of teams would have went too far left there and given themselves an opportunity to get lobby focused with the base boost gloves. Notice how because this pulls up and we know his teams are staring at us, we're mainly using our builds to go up rather than just forcing it with gloves. Once we get close to Oliver, that forces Oliver to go up, right? So a lot of teams in this situation, they're just going to try and force this rotate with their mobility. It's really impulsive, it's kind of dumb. But what Kraez does here is super smart. He cuts in towards these old builds, he identifies in his mind, he's like, hey, Oliver's a solo, right? This guy, he doesn't know it's Oliver, but like, this guy's a solo over here. Once I get close enough, if this guy doesn't go, I can just key him and get this refresh. And if he does go, all of a sudden I can just go to the left of this guy and I have the freest rotate. Oliver goes back, all of a sudden Kraez is just able to go into the left here. Now he does have to invest mats here, and he does, similar to last game where he invests heavily into the 7th zone. But again, when you're on 7th zone congestion, that's not the end of the world. And so they're able to get in here without burning too many of their heals, which is really important because they don't have too many to begin with. Really, really clean rotate there that sets them up well. They're in here. They try and crouch walk back to see if they can awareness check a team following their tarp. They don't really get anything. They're able to get a good spray off here, but they're not able to get these kills. The one thing I'll say about this season is a lot of teams have absolutely ridiculous amount of ammo. The amount of teams I see running around this map that have 400, 500 plus ammo on every player is insane. And like I said before, because they invested so much money into the 7th zone, it forced teams to go around them. Now they can, like, aggress here because they have so much space claims. So similar to the last zone as well, they stagger on their rotate for a few seconds in this mobility meta to try and look for a kill, rather than just going instantly. Before they rotate, they also utilize their scan. Even if, like, the scan doesn't show you solos and duos, what it does give you a general idea of if teams are looking back at you or not, because you have you can see them through walls now, right? So that scan does give them more information, is going to help make this rotate easier. They can also see if teams in front of them start to go. The second they do, they start to go. Kraez cuts in towards the left. Super smart, I love this. A lot of times, teams on max pulls hug the edge of the zone too much, and so what it does is it puts them into this lane with all of these other teams on congestion. The cleanest lane here, even though it doesn't seem like logical, is right down the middle. There's a lot less teams down the middle here than on this congested edge. So, Kraez cuts in towards middle, dashes. Notice again, every time you use one of these base boost gloves, you always want to turn around and try and look forward, have like a general idea of what you're aiming for, where you're going, because you don't want to find yourself in someone's box. Now that he's able to get past the congestion, he's able to cut back to the right. Now he's able to commit to a side of zone. This is picture perfect. This is the position you want to be in. Able to follow the build even more. And this is absolutely perfect. This is like textbook, where do you want to be in this lobby. Now they're able to go back because they have all this space too. Able to get this little drop down. And sadly, Jeremy de Jongen is not able to escape their piece. Once again, try and go for a spray down. Once again, they get a really good first moving pull. Essentially pulls straight back to them. They're able to use a lot of their old builds and stuff. They're going to do a very similar thing to last game, which is just play a low to mid-ground layer. Just constantly keep scanning. Use it to navigate the builds, and then just play it off aggressively against teams around them. So you might have noticed there that they accidentally left their scanner behind. kraez has got the awareness to notice that before it's too late, go back for it. Thankfully though, like I said before, even when kraez is in front side, someone still has the brains to take over and lead tarp. That often is Shadow. Real quick, let's see what's the next kill. I believe it is going to be kraez, so let's follow kraez here for a second. And using the scan, they're also just able to see this down body front side, which allows them to try to aggress for this little refresh they need. They're able to use the base boost gloves to force that guy off the body, and then able to push back pump. Now they aren't really able to get much of the loot off that body, but still, pretty clean gameplay. Second zone pops, they try and force front again. Remember, it's always better to be front side with 0 mats than back side with 0 mats. Because if you're back side with 0 mats, a team from front side can spray and kill you. If you're front side, you can at least actually make something happen. Always want to be front side. Teammate accidentally launches him into zone. Now the idea behind that play was use base boost, break gloves, force fight on pumped. Kind of works, kind of doesn't, because kraez gets sent into zone. Not as efficient as they would have liked, but still able to get the kill. Now, the position they're in right now isn't great, but it's not the worst in a mobility meta. So, like, the worst possible zone is if it pulls back, but they have enough space over to this side where they could try and tarp up to the left here. They obviously don't know about this loot, where they can try and tarp up this way and use mobility if they have to, as they all are pretty healthy. But ideally, if zone pulls down, they're in a really, really good spot. So, in like 10th, 11th, 12th, these are the zones where like where you are truly positioned really, really starts to matter. Where they are when this 11th zone pops really, really matters. So 11th zone pops and it pulls down, and they are in the best position to try and take this low. What goes wrong, though? They have the best position. kraez has 500 mats. What goes wrong? Vergo and Shadow go for a drop down as zone transitions. Cannot tell you why they decide to do it. One of the very few misplays you will see out of this trio. So, they get together. Zone's about to pop. Zone transitions, and they go for a drop down here on Baka. The drop down in and of itself isn't that bad of a call, but it's the timing of it. Because 11th just popped and it pulls down, they need to get front. They need to get front. Front is the most important thing. And then, disaster strikes. Baka's able to hit a crazy one pump. kraez has to stop going front, come backwards. Has to fight Baka. They're able to get the kill. They're able to get the res here. But the thing is, they should be front zone. They should be front zone, they should be established, and they should be healthy. They are now none of these things. Instead, this duo is able to take front from them. They now shift their focus trying to look up. And the game comes crumbling down. Their entire game collapsed because they looked for a refresh when zone was transitioning instead of being ready. kraez had the match to get them front side. Instead, they looked for a refresh because they got a dopamine rush because they saw a chance for a kill. One of very few misplays you will see out of this trio. This is what happens when you have a trio that's 3 of the better fighters on a region. Sometimes you get a little too confident, you know? But now, because they weren't front side, that team was able to cut them off. They try to look for height, they're not able to get it, and now the entire game is basically over. That 1-11 zone transition justified this game. There's a very real world where they could have won this game. There are not good mats on this high team. That is a winnable game. But because they weren't ready when transition hits, and Baka is able to hit that crazy shot on him as he drops down, the game is over. They lose in a format where it's win only. But, like I said, we're voting all 3 of their good games from this finals. And they won the last game, and with an impressive 14 kills. I'm also, a little bit of a spoiler, the one team they fight in this mid-game is, by some people, the best team in all of NA. Alright, let's skip forward. So, by now, most teams know, hey, these guys, they're keying everything they can find. So, they have a little bit of trouble finding some early game aggression. They go up, they don't find anyone. They go into flooded, they don't find anyone. They are eventually going to stumble upon a team that they can fight. Just look at the map, you can probably figure out who it is. So they scan, they see Higgs. Once again, same thing as before. Whenever they see someone isolated, they want to try and punish them. So they saw Higgs here, and they think Higgs is like a solo, like further out of his teammates. They don't see Clicks behind this tree. So Shadow tries to close the distance by using his base boost gloves. He gets caught out because of Clicks behind that tree. Goes down HP. Gets sent out of the fight. But here's where he gets pretty lucky. He drops down here. Insta jumps back up to look for damage and gets a crazy beam onto Higgs. 170 on him. And then kraez. This is what I always describe as really good, like what defines a really good fighter in Fortnite. Whenever they're up HP, they're like a shark when they smell blood in the water, right? They just go out and they like hunt. They hunt, they hunt. They are down so much HP here. They have like a one good beam on Higgs, and then kraez just hunts. Counter damage. Here's Higgs get cracked. Hunt. The only way I can describe that. That is sharks smelling blood in the water, hunting it down. This is what you have to be if you want to truly be a top fighter. And so now, because they have the man advantage, not that crazy of a fight for them. Able to get another big shot off onto Yamzo. The fight does stall because Yamzo and them are able to get some pretty good counter damage. Normally this fight would probably be over, but we have to remember Yamzo and Clicks are 2 of the top 5 to 10 fighters at minimum on the region. So it's not too easy to end the fight as fast as with some of the other teams we've watched. So now, once again, we're just going to constantly just be trying to isolate, force 1v2s. We double clicks, get the cone in his box, go up. No matter how good someone is, they can't hold 2 walls at once. And so we're able to kill Clicks there. Shadow does, like, does a little bit of trolling. Yamzo almost gets out. But again, that is just really good play out of Shadow. He gets launched out of the fight, instantly jumps back up, is able to get a lot of damage off on Higgs. Then kraez is just able to go full shark mode, hunts down that player, gets a lot of damage off on Clicks as well, turns the tide of the fight, gives his teammates enough time to heal, and then kraez is able to hold off Yamzo, while Vergo and Shadow are able to 2v1 Clicks. No matter how good someone is at fighting, if you're up a man, they can't hold 2 walls at once. It's just not how the game works. And so if you're able to pinch them there, if you're able to use that man advantage, it's very easy to win fights against players, even if they are on paper better than you at fighting. So now that they've dealt with one of, if not the best team in the lobby still, they now get to relax. This is the last game of an eval finals. It is about midnight on a weekday. People are tired, and so everyone is crashing out. 48 alive, third zone. So we're going to fast forward a bit. I don't know about you guys, but I don't like staring at bushes, and that is what most of their gameplay is. Staring at bushes and sitting in boxes. So, little quick loop. 6 minis, 3 bigs. 6 minis, or not 6 minis, 3 bigs, only 1 heal. And then finally, on kraez, 6 minis, 3 bigs. So, they don't have a single bit of white health between them. Kind of bad, but hey. Who needs white health when you have just Siphon in the game? So once again, using LOS from the hill as our pathway in towards a 6th zone. Very similar to the last game when you really think about it, but also on a completely different zone. Able to get into a good spot, able to refarm. Not really too much loss there on that rotate. There we go, 4x. Apologies there. Once again, another max pull. We'll use our gloves. Team is griefing a little too hard. He's ready to counter pressure with these gloves. The reason why you counter pressure with the gloves is because it breaks their builds. If they're breaking their builds, they obviously can't really spray it. Once again, though, similar to like all of our other games, I know we got here in a different way, but once again, on 7th zone, out of Kraez, we have a 3x2. We've once again invested a lot of mats into 7th zone. Every single game so far, we have seen Kraez invest a lot of mats here. I think on average, it's a good strategy. If you don't have good mats, it's definitely worth, or if you have good mats, it's definitely worth for you to invest mats into these later zones, especially 7th. It is the zone where people crash out, it's where people pre, it's where people do a lot of dumb things, because that's when they start to really run out of mats. It's also when one of the hardest surges in the game is, 44 players, so a lot of teams are also being super aggressive there because it's often one of the hardest ones. Players are below surge and they need to get in. So investing into the 7th zone, I think, is a pretty good habit to get into if you have the mats to do it. Something you also see Queasy do a lot of. He'll also invest a lot of mats into 7 zones. Pulls back to them. They've got a pretty good, like, couple moving zones basically every single game. This 8th zone is no different. Once again, invest heavily into the zone. Not going to be cheap with our mats. If you're gonna die in Fortnite, it's probably worth dying fighting rather than dying because you're being too cheap. Someone pulls max again, looks up, looks at what Height's doing, launches his teammates, and launches himself. I would say probably the Iamzo right-click tech is probably better than that, as it means that you don't have to then have the person launching only have 2 charges, whereas Shadow and Vergo both had 3 charges there and caused them to be a little split. The right click is probably better there because you don't have one player that just has less charges. You can always like get to the same general depth of the zone, but clearly still pretty viable strat to just have your IGL send your 2 fraggers. Once again, we force our way into a pretty good low ground position. Notice the structure damage from these dual pistols. Really, really strong item. I think it's super, super underrated. I think it's a very good surge gun with its ability to have first shot accuracy. I think it's also a very good fighting gun, as you saw in the 2nd game. Once again, we're constantly cycling back scan. If we're going to be a mid to low ground team, it is very important that we know where everyone is. It is a massive advantage. Once again, sees a body. Similar to the last game, we're able to get a refresh off of us just seeing a body off of scan. Now we're also going to get a refresh here because we can literally see these guys in zone off of our scan. Feels bad for my boy Sin, but hey. Sometimes it's the way the cookie crumbles. Now, I'm going to focus on Kraez here because I think Kraez is going to very shortly make a play that wins them this game. That play, right there. The awareness on Kraez in that moment is what wins them this game. It's similar to that first game where I talked about how Vergo died because he didn't hold his floor and cones. This is the only thing he could have done that game. The awareness as your IGL, to hear that team pull out their gloves, edits, and then have the focus to hold your floors, wins them this game. If Kraez is like 90 of this lobby and doesn't have the awareness to like go, hey, they're about to fucking try and drop me down, he's dead right here. He's dead. They don't win this game. Straight up. Instead, he has the awareness. He's holding the floors. Catches himself. Doesn't die there. That saves them this game. That is the game-winning play. Right there. It's not a play you're going to really look at like after the tournament. You're going to be like, it's not a flashy play. That play right there, that awareness, that is tier 1 level awareness. That is a great, great play. Then they look up. Shot by height. Similar to like a katana meta, it's very important to get above the team you're trying to contest height for. They're able to get damage off. Now this height take does become very messy, as does most endgames in this meta, but they are able to get above them. Only one left is Oliver. And they're just able to outlast them. That is one of the benefits of 3 gloves compared to 2, like the purple ones. When you have those triple, like, the gloves that have 3 boosts, you're just able to outlast these teams that don't. Because Preston only has 2 glove uses, as is Oliver, they can't keep going up as many times as this other team is. They can't just keep going up as many times as Vergo, Shadow, and Kraez. So because of that, they're able to just stay up more. They now are on height. Oliver goes for the hero play, doesn't get it. Vergo's not able to get up to them, but because they still have height now, in this meta, it's not too hard of a win. Even if you aren't a trio on height, in this meta with the base boost gloves, it's very easy to win, just because of the pressure you can put down with these gloves. So, because they're like hearing like a lot of people base boosting while they're healing, they cover their head. Like I said, even if you're not a trio, it's very easy to win in this meta, just because just the amount of pressure you can put down with these gloves, like it's crazy. Now we're top 3, 2 solos. I'll go with EXE Sin, almost put up a god clutch. Kraez is once again able to go up. Big shot, and then they're able to win the game. So, the very last zone, it is super chaotic, but that game truly came down to that one play by Kraez, having the awareness to realize that team edited on him. Super, like, that is god-level awareness that can only be developed through lots and lots of playing. Actually incredible play. So, that is my very, very short, only 50-minute long VOD review breakdown of their 3 games from Eval Finals. This is one of the most underrated trios. I think they have a legit path to being the 4th best trio on NA this year, or I guess this season. They are a very skilled trio. It'll be interesting to see if they stick together. Some rumblings that they might end up splitting, but only time will tell. Thank you guys all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button if you managed to make it all the way through. Follow me on x.com/PeanutBrainTS. I do like a lot of little mini breakdowns of a lot of teams like this. I put up a 5-minute breakdown of their fighting there too. Thank you guys all for watching.